Good evening, and welcome to the U Talk show where we talk and you listen, at least for now. You did not get to listen to the first round of this because Kyle managed to forget to hit the record button or have some sort of technical mishap. So I'm going to have to read out part of Mein Kampf again.
Yes.
Because, you see, this evening we are discussing the lies being told about carbon emissions and what it will take to reduce them to a sustainable point, much less the net zero that we keep hearing about. But first, I'd like to quote Hitler from the Peace and Comfort of a Jail Cell in, I think it was 1925 or so, where he first brings up the concept of Die große Lüge. He tells us that at the bottom of the hearts, the people are more likely to be misled by their emotions than to be consciously and deliberately bad. In the simplicity of their minds, they will fall victim more easily to a large lie than a small lie, since sometimes they tell small lies themselves, but would be ashamed to tell a lie that was too big. They could never consider telling a lie of such magnitude themselves, or knowing that it would require such impudence, they would not consider it possible for such a lie to be told by others. That was nearly 100 years ago, and yet the fundamental concept of a lie so audacious that you could not conceive of it as anything other than an attempt at an earnest representation of the truth persists. A good example, one of the lies that Kyle is going to bring up, because I have time travel, is that climate change is the individual responsibility. Despite the fact that we know for a fact that the largest portion of emissions is due to the actions of heavy industry, we as individuals are the subject of media campaigns that encourage us to do things like switch to LED lighting, put solar panels on your roof, have a battery installed, do your part to contribute. Because the fact of the matter is that while all of these measures that we can undertake as individuals are, to a greater or lesser extent, a good start, they cannot scratch the surface that would come of forcing larger corporations and entities to operate in a more ethical, a more sustainable way. They tell us that it would be damaging to the economy, that the nation could not survive. That's a lie too. And it's a lie that goes hand in hand with the first. After all, if the nation would grind to a halt if we demanded that those actually responsible did their part, then surely it would be all that we could do to take what little accountability and responsibility we can.
And that's the sinister part of it.
It's a technique that's been around for so many years and we're still fucking falling for it.
Yeah, and that they put the responsibility on us as individuals for a problem that they caused, and which ultimately, in doing so, proves ineffective at actually providing a solution. Because the solution is not for us to do things as individuals. It's for us to support the legislation that changes laws and that changes the way our society is fueled. We do need heaps of energy production. Society basically runs on energy, and that energy is provided by fossil fuels. To change the supply chains of energy, that is a monumental effort, but it is doable by large corporations and governments. However, large corporations, with their easy-to-hold monopoly through fossil fuels that earns them a ton of money, they, of course, do not want to change. So first they put the responsibility on us as individuals, and then they claim that reducing carbon emissions will cause the economy to take a hit. Well, let us dispel that myth right now. Renewable energy creates between 8 and 10 times the amount of jobs that fossil fuels does. So if you think about that, for every job you destroy in fossil fuels, you create not just that job, but also another 7 to 9 on top of that. And second, if you want a cheaper electricity bill, well, it's between 15 and 25% cheaper. That is electricity created by renewable energy as opposed to fossil fuels is 15 to 25% cheaper. I enjoy that savings, and I think the rest of the nation should as well. So those are the first great lies that we are told. The second set is about our reduction targets. Some people say that certain reduction targets are too ambitious, or that, it will be it's too difficult. Insert the excuse here. There's a million excuses why it's too difficult, or for why we should take it more slowly. But as it stands right now, what we need, or rather what we could do, what we are capable of is net zero by 2040. I'd actually argue net zero by 2035, but the logistics on that is a nightmare, and so I'll give people that one. If they really, if they're really going to argue that one, I'll give them that one and say 2040, we could have net zero by then.
Absolutely.
However,
all it would require is the political will, and for corporations to put their damn money where their mouths are.
Exactly.
Do you remember BP doing the bloody sunshines and rainbows ad campaign recently, saying they were fighting for a greener future?
I don't watch television, and I have ad blocker, so I don't get a lot of ads.
I'll just remind the good viewers that BP stands for British Petroleum.
Yes. It's one of the longest running oil companies in the world, eh? It's been around, I think, forever. I think it might even be the first. I can't quite remember. But that aside, so right now, what we're capable of is net zero by 2040. And so what net zero means is carbon emissions in to carbon emissions out. So how much we put into the atmosphere to how much is absorbed by grasslands, trees, whatever, is, that is at an equilibrium. So imagine if, because we're basing it off 2005 levels. So if you imagine it as on 2005 levels, we have 100 carbon emissions, 100 points of carbon emissions taken out of the atmosphere by various means, and we're putting in 200. So what we need is to reduce that. If we are to achieve net zero by 2050, we need to reduce that by 45%. So 45 points, bring it down to, for carbon emissions taken out of the atmosphere, we need to be putting in only 155 per 100 being taken out. That by 2030. And our target, as legislated at the federal level, we could do it. We very well could do it. But our target,
I know I was running through some of the maths earlier.
Yeah, but our target at the federal level is 43%. So we're not even, so the official target is not even where it needs to be. And we're probably not going to make that even the official target. And the reason for that is because, well, it's various. Well,
no, it's just corruption.
There's various reasons, but it all does come back to corruption. Specifically, legalized bribery and the power of the almighty dollar on political campaigns. Because
Gonna
you
quote
drop
Cicero
100,000
because
into a
we're done
political
with Hitler
campaign,
here.
you can get a member elected.
Gonna quote Cicero. We're done with Hitler here.
Yeah.
Lucius Cassius,
Just jumping all
whom the
throughout
Roman
history, aren't you?
people used to regard as the most honest and most wise judge, was in the habit of asking, time and again in lawsuits, to whom might it be a benefit? Legalized bribery, corruption, whatever you want to call it. The fact of the matter is that with a sufficient incentive, people will do things that are dishonorable, disloyal, disreputable. People will abrogate their responsibilities to society for sufficient motivation. And since well earlier than the Roman Empire, money has so frequently proven a sufficient motivation.
Yeah. And, I remember, again, I can't remember who said it, but it goes, there are three reasons for doing things: money, sex, and power. What politicians
First, you'll
get out
get the
of
money, then you'll get the power, then you'll get the women.
Yeah. So what politicians get out of the arrangement, what they get out of the political donations is the power. They get to hold on to power in Parliament. They get a position. What corporations get out of it is more money via profits. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Okay, I have
And
the question
even in
for
the-
the next session, and it's what just went through Host's head about why power is so alluring.
Interesting. Next
Yeah.
episode, maybe.
Yeah.
So the threw me off what I was about to say, actually. Let's see. Money, power, symbiotic relationship, and right. So, even in the best of cases, we have, like, even just the threat of throwing money into the political war chest of your opponents is a big enough threat to force even a decent government to let some things slide, to go the wrong way. In 2013, the Mineral Resources Council, or effectively the mining industry, put 100 million into a campaign to throw Labor out of government. And if you look at the actions of Labor today, you can tell that they are shit scared of that happening again. And on top of that, they have yet, as not, as I understand it, dealt with the ongoing problems with carbon credits. See, a carbon credit can be awarded for such a thing as not clearing
Paying a
land that
legalized
was going
bribe.
to be planned.
Paying a legalized bribe.
Well, I mean, let's get into the more technical side of it. So carbon credits, essentially, they're supposed to be awarded for things like reforesting land that was previously cleared, or that had desertified, and essentially changing plans so that land would not be cleared, so that it remains as a carbon sink, taking carbon out of the atmosphere. Now, carbon credits are being awarded for not clearing land that was never going to be cleared in the first place. And there are numerous reports on this.
So you can get carbon
Very
credits
good
for doing
reports.
literally nothing. It's
Yeah,
free
so you
real
can get
estate.
carbon. Yeah, and also there are the things that people can do, forget it, which are legitimately them trying to do things which get them carbon credits, are ineffective for various reasons that are sort of what's the word, unintended side effects and consequences, such as buying more heat efficient stoves for people in poorer countries.
Yep.
What they end up doing is buying multiple stoves and then using multiple stoves at a time instead of just the one stove at a time. These are like fire stoves. It's I definitely it's a bit of a it's a title that's a bit sort of out there, but there's a video called Carbon Offsets Are a Scam. It really gets into that. It's on YouTube. Again, the title's a bit much, but it gets into how that works. Again, good intention, even good intentions can end up not being effective. And then there are the flaws that see bad intentions rewarded. So we are only going to reach, if we do reach our 43% target, which is an insufficient target to begin with, we will only end up reaching that via essentially what is dodgy accounting tricks through carbon offsets that don't actually offset carbon or reduce carbon emissions or increase carbon sinking.
Wow, I'm depressed now.
Well, maybe next episode or the episode after, if you still got that thing in mind,
I've got the thing in mind.
We'll get into a few things of how we can fix all this. But for now,
I've still got the thing in mind.
Yeah, for now, at least to give you an upside, Horst, we're a minute under time.
That's something.
Yeah,
good night, all. We'll see you soon.
Have a good one. Take care.